In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you the biggest reason why most businesses fail. Maybe you've tried some businesses in the past and they haven't worked out. And I'm also going to share with you what I believe to be the most beginner-friendly business model so that you can give yourself the best possible chance of succeeding with a new business so that you can escape the 9 to 5, get more time, more location, more financial freedom. There's a reason why so many businesses fail. And there's a few traps that people fall into that I want to walk through today and explain. And the first trap is that they try and think of something new. They're waiting for this idea, this brand new idea, so that they can pursue that new idea and, start living the life that they want. And while that can be true and it can work, for 99% of people, it doesn't work. For every brilliant idea, there's been 99 other brilliant ideas that never came into fruition, never changed anybody's life. And if you look around and you look at successful people, they're not doing something new. They don't have this new product that nobody else has. They're not inventors. They are just working in a business that has solid foundations. So the first thing that kind of you've got to be aware of is you don't need to create something new. You just need to start a business that is built on solid foundations, that has stood the test of time, that solves a genuine problem. And if you do that and you follow sound business knowledge and advice and principles, then you will succeed. But a lot of people make it a lot harder for themselves than it needs to be. And that's what we're going to cover in the rest of this video. So there's really 3 things that stop people that want to start a business, that it stops them from being successful. And the first one is around complexity. Too many beginner business owners start a complex business, or a business that is too complex for their current business skills. And if you're new at business, the most intelligent thing that you can do is look at yourself in the mirror and be at peace with the fact that you are not the best business owner just yet, and that you need to play a game that is level with your business skills. Like if you play a video game, for example, you don't all of a sudden go to the hardest level in the game. You start off at the easiest, and as your skill progresses, the difficulty in levels progress as well. If you haven't gathered, I'm not really a video player, but the consensus is still the same. You want to start off with something easy, and you can grow into more difficult, more complicated business models. But too many people, they start complicated business models. They start e-commerce businesses, which from the outset, watching a YouTube video on somebody that's, doing 100K per month in e-com sales might look really easy. But there's so many skills that go into making that happen. And by the way, 100K in e-com sales does not mean 100K in your pocket. So when you see all these people making all this money from e-com, how much are they actually taking home? But that's a different topic. There's so many complexities to running an e-com store, for example. So if you're starting out, don't start a complicated business like e-com, even though it is, you might be drop shipping, you might be sourcing some other products, but there's so many skills that go into making it a success. And that's why so many people start a business like e-com and they don't succeed. It's because it's a lot more complicated than people think. So the first one is just making sure that you avoid complexity and you move towards simplicity. And it's much easier to do when you have a very open and honest conversation with yourself about where your business skill levels are. Now, if you haven't run a business before, you haven't been a business owner, or you have been a business owner and it hasn't been very successful, then you need to start at level 1. In the grand scheme of things, I am still at level 1. I run a very simple business. I run it in quite a good way with systems and staff, but I'm still kind of at level 1, and I've been playing this game of business for kind of 6 years now. There's probably more complicated business models I could go into, but if Elon Musk is level 10 with dozens of businesses trying to get onto Mars, trying to change satellites in space, he's level 10, I'm definitely level 1, and it's okay to be level 1. We don't need to try and create some really complicated business. So if you are a beginner and you are starting out and you do want to get that, whether it's time, location, financial freedom, we'll just kind of package it all under freedom. If you do want to get that freedom, give yourself the best possible chance by starting something, a business that is based around simplicity, not around complexity. That's the first reason as to why people don't succeed. And it's where most beginners go wrong, is all around that complexity. The second thing that stops people being successful, and the thing that you want to look out for as a beginner starting a business, is money. Some businesses cost a lot more money to run than others. And when you're starting out in business, regardless of whether you have a big pot of money behind you or you don't, and most of the time you don't, most of the time you have more time than money, regardless of whether you have money behind you or not, your tendencies are to not spend money. So again, regardless of whether you got it or not, you don't want to be spending that money. And that shortens the runway that you've allowed yourself for this business to start, becoming profitable and succeeding. And the shorter the runway, the less likely the business is to be successful. So instead of having a big pot of cash and starting a business that is costly, you should start a business that requires very little capital, very little investment, so that your runway, the amount of time that you have in order for it to be successful, is very long. And the longer your runway, the more likely you are to be successful. And that's why all these beginners that decide that because they've seen it online, they've seen people on Instagram, they've seen people on YouTube with, gold watches and driving fancy cars, they're day traders. Well, then I'll be a day trader. And there's a common thought process is don't do what people tell you to do what they're doing. Don't listen to what he says, do what he does. And in my opinion, that's utter bullshit. And the reason being is because people are at different stages. Somebody with $1 million in the bank, day trading might be a good idea. For a beginner that's just starting out that might have $1,000 to his name or her name, day trading is a terrible, terrible, terrible idea. So don't look at what people are doing because they're not in the same boat as you. They're not in the same situation as you. If you've got $1,000 or less than $100,000 to your name, and you decide to go and start trading, for example, your runway is about that long. You get it wrong and, game over. So don't start a business that requires heavy capital because of the length of your runway, basically. So we want to make sure something is simple, it's not complex, and we want to make sure that it doesn't cost a fortune or it doesn't cost a lot of money. And the reason being is we want to be playing the game for a long period of time. The grass is not greener on the other side. The grass is greener where you water it. And what we want to do is we want to give ourselves the chance of watering our own grass for as long as humanly possible. And the more time that we can play at this game of business, the more chance we have at succeeding. So to begin with, our goal, our objective is staying alive. And we can't do that if we start a dangerous business, basically. So don't look at these influencers that are day trading and think, look at their lives, I want some of that. They probably didn't get to where they are right now by day trading. They probably actually sell a course on how to day trade, and that's how they're making their money. So number 2 is all around money. Make sure that you're starting something that doesn't cost an arm and a leg to start. And you're probably thinking, this is great, Lawrence, this is great, but what business do I start? And I'll get there in a minute. So the third thing that we need is to make sure that so you could put it under the umbrella of time or speed, or kind of both. So when we're starting out, we want to launch our own business. For the vast majority of you watching, you have something else, whether it's university, college, a 9-to-5 job, a family, whatever it may be. There's other things going on in your life. And so it needs to be something that does not require a bunch of your time. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that you can become financially free and that you can live the life of your dreams and you only need to dedicate half an hour a day to a business, because unfortunately, if it was that easy, everybody would be doing it. And there are definitely things that sound too good to be true, and that is one of them. You do need to allocate a portion of your day to your future dreams, your future self, your future life. And what stops people from living the life that they want is they're not willing to step out of the life that they currently have. And what I mean by that is they might come home from work and they might put Netflix on. That is the life that they have. They're not willing to step out of that life, turn Netflix off, go to their computer and start building their future life. They prefer to sit there and then dream about this big, future amazing life. We need to make sure that it doesn't take up all of our free time. Because again, if we go back to that runway analogy, if you're working, say, 9 to 5, and then you need to allocate 5 hours a day, 5 days a week, the likelihood of you putting in that shift every single day after work is quite slim, because life happens, and for a period of time, you're not going to be making any progress, you're not going to be making money, and you're going to be spending all this time, and you're going to think, this isn't working. So you're going to stop. And that runway becomes a lot shorter because of the time effort involved as well. So there's like a money runway, there's an effort runway, and there's like a motivation runway, and we want to make sure these are all as long as humanly possible. So we need to make sure that it doesn't take up all the time in the world. And there's lots of things that we can do to help that. But when we're starting out, we can't really afford to pay people, to hire staff, to do things for us, because we don't have the money. But there are certain kind of hacks and tricks that you can do to leverage other people's time and share. And I'll give you an example. So with our students, what we do is the student is responsible for kind of setting up their own business. And I'll go into kind of what that business is in a second. They're responsible for setting up the business, and they're responsible, with our help, for signing clients. We do actually introduce them to clients sometimes as well, but that's a different story. A student, they start their own business, they sign their first client. But then what we do is we introduce them to experts that can service that client for them, so that their time is not spent looking after their clients. They can bring somebody on board to do that for them. But now you're probably thinking, yeah, well, Lawrence, that's great if they can afford them. What we do is we say, you share in the profit. It doesn't even have to be 50-50. Sometimes it's 80-20, but you share in the profit with this expert. So they'll come in, they'll look after the client, they'll take 20% of what the client pays, and then the business owner keeps 80%. So they're not doing any of the work, but they're keeping 80% of the money. And they're not having to outlay any money because they're taking the money when the client pays them. So there's lots of ways that you can start businesses that have those sorts of structures where you're not tied to your desk. You're not, coming home from a long day at work and then having to sit at your desk for 4 hours to build this business. You do need to sit at your desk. You do need to build the business, but you don't necessarily need to be, doing absolutely everything in the business. So if we just summarize the 3 things that you want to be aware of as a beginner and starting the most beginner-friendly business, we want to make sure that we remove complexity and we kind of head towards simplicity. We want to make sure that it is not a costly business to start, to set up, or to run. And we also want to make sure that it's not extremely time intensive. So when we've got those 3 things and we're conscious of them, it allows us to start a business using a framework that gives us the best possible chance to succeed. Now, at the start of the video, I talked about what I believe to be the most beginner-friendly business. And it is a business that, even though I'm not a beginner, I still run to this day. And the reason I run it to this day is because it's so easy. And I want ease. I don't want complexity if I can help it. I want something easy. I want something simple. I want something scalable. And that is a cold email lead generation business. And you might think, well, that sounds complicated. And let me explain why it's not. So what we do is we use cold email and we reach out to clients, or prospects, should I say. We reach out to prospects and we try and get them onto a sales call to sell our service. And our service is doing cold email for them so that they can generate sales calls. So we reach out to our prospects through cold email and we say, hey, we can help you get more sales calls. Do you want to jump on a sales call with me to see whether or not we can help you? They say, yeah, okay. Some do, some don't, which is absolutely fine. But they say, yeah, okay. We get on a sales call and we say, yeah, we can do your cold email for you. And they go, how do I know it's going to work? And I say, you know how I sent you a cold email? They say, yeah. So you know how we're on a sales call right now? They say, yeah. I said, well, you're living proof that it works. I sent you a cold email to get onto a sales call, and here we are. I'm just going to do the exact same thing for you that I did to get you on this call. So I say, it worked on you, therefore it's going to work for you, Mr. Prospect. Does that make sense? They say, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so now they're sold on the concept. which is really simple, really straightforward. They kind of sold themselves. We don't really have to do anything. And then the beautiful thing is there's only one skill I need to learn, and that's cold email. So I use cold email to sign my clients, and then I use the same service, the same skill, which is cold email, to get my clients results. So I don't have to learn how to day trade. I don't have to learn how to buy products for an e-com business. I don't have to learn how to do store design, sell paid ads, email flows and SMS flows for follow-up for e-commerce brands. I don't need to learn any of that stuff. I just need to learn how to do cold emails. And then once I do cold emails, I know how to sign clients and I know how to deliver the service for my clients. So it fits that lack of complexity, that simplicity. And because I'm not spending money on paid ads to generate clients, I'm not doing anything really complicated, it's not very expensive either. Sending cold emails is one of the most cost-effective things you can do in terms of marketing. So it ticks that box of cost and making sure that it doesn't cost a lot of money. And then we've then got the time thing that's left. Launching a cold email campaign is very, very quick. We just have to kind of, especially once you've built it once, you then just quite literally go into the software and hit duplicate and just add new prospects to a campaign. So it's ridiculously simple, but here's where we make it one step simpler. We make it so much easier, and that's by hiring people to do it all for us. So when we speak to a prospect, we say, we'll do everything for you. You know that it works because you're on the sales call. They say, yeah, I agree. And we say, and we're not even going to charge you any money to do it. And they go, huh? This sounds too good to be true. So yeah, we don't want to take any money up front. What we'll do is we will charge you for every sales call that we book onto your calendar. And they go, so I don't have to pay anything. It's completely risk-free. I just pay for the results that you generate. And we say, exactly. And they say, okay, like, where do I sign? And it's really easy to sell because there's no risk for the client. And then what we do is, let's say, for example, we charge a client $200 to generate them a sales call. We would then work with a cold email expert, and we have lots of them and we train them on a daily basis and we kind of introduce them to our students. But we partner with a lead generation cold email expert, and we say, right, you're going to run this client's campaign, you're going to look after this client, and we're going to pay you $50 for every sales call that you book for this client. And they're happy because they're earning a lot more money than they would kind of being paid a full-time salary. And they also have lots of opportunity to earn as much money as they can. The more money that they earn, the more money that you earn, the more happier the client is because they're getting more sales calls. So it's like a win-win-win. So you don't have to actually operate that client and look after that client. You just have to partner with the right person. Easier said than done if you don't have a pool of experts to kind of lean on. But that's my business model. It's really simple. It's really straightforward. We get a sales call, and I get a little notification that I've like automatically set up. Again, really easy. And inside Slack, I get a message saying like, we need to bill this client because we just got them a sales call. So we go in, we bill them, and boom, we pay our staff, we keep the rest. And it's just such a simple business model. Clients stick around forever. And the reason being is because they get paid, or they pay, based off the value that we provide. So it's really easy to prove that what we do works because the prospect is on a sales call. It's really low cost to send out cold emails. When we speak to a prospect, we say there's no risk. You just pay for the calls that we generate. And then we work with an expert to generate those calls on our behalf. And then we share in the money that we make from the client. So in my opinion, after doing this for 6 years, looking at a bunch of different business models, I truly believe this is the most beginner-friendly business that you can start in 2024 and beyond. So if you want to find out a little bit more about the business model and how we can help you set it up, then below this video, first link in the description, will take you to a webpage. There's a video walking you through everything in a little bit more detail. And then if you want to find out more, you can hop on a call with me. And if you have any questions, leave them in the comments, reach out to me on Instagram. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.